Hey there, people. This is Levi from Masculine Intuition Readings, and this is just going to be another sort of talking video, and it's about Oracle decks. I love them. I may even. This is a very bold statement, but I may even love them a little bit more than tarot, honestly. When I got really good at reading tarot, I was like soaking it all up, and I'm kind of at a point in my tarot learning where I've kind of hit a little bit of a plateau, and that doesn't mean that I don't love it, but that does mean that it can get a little bit boring, and I've always been very much an Oracle deck guy. I was always more interested in tarot, but it wasn't until I got my first Oracle deck that I found my confidence as a reader, because I didn't feel like I was memorizing stuff, because I was getting messages from these cards, and with my intuition was chaining these messages together into a bigger story. So Oracle cards really helped me develop, become that storyteller that I think people want to see when they get a reading. And I had some decks come in this week. I don't know if you've watched my video on it, but one of them was this. Ooh, that was a little insect flying by. We get lots of insects here, lots of ants and mosquitoes and shit. I got this deck in the Moon deck, absolutely stunning set in this box, and I really enjoyed that. And then I went to to the local metaphysical store, because I always want to support her. She's a really badass lady who like takes risks, even sells some indie decks like the Fortuna Tarot is there, the Spacious Tarot, the Fauna Bell Tarot. Like, she sells a shit ton of decks. She has an Oracle deck of mine that she sells. She sells all kinds of decks. So that's really cool, and I always want to support her. And I was actually listening to Colette Baron Reed's podcast, and and that kind of triggered me, because I knew she had gotten this in and I'd never really seen it. That triggered me to get this, the Shaman's Dream Oracle. And I have to be honest, I love this. I really love this. It's, you know, once again, this is not a flip through video. It is on that horrible new Hay House cardstock, which I really hope they get rid of soon, because it is trashy and cheap as hell. But it's a really pretty deck. There's one really creepy card in here that I keep pulling for some reason. Maybe we'll get to that in a bit. But I feel like Jenna Della Gotrolio's artwork this is, I think, the ultimate culmination of what it is that she can do. And I do love this. And there's two men in here. Like, wow. So it's a really pretty deck. But it's also, oh yeah, this is the card that creeps me the hell out, and that I keep getting. It says cat or pillar. You know, so I got it. I do like it, because it's a very workable deck, in the sense that it's a collection of really pretty pictures, gorgeous card backs too. So it's a collection of pretty pictures and usable keywords, and a guidebook that frankly is a little bit weird, because sometimes it doesn't really match up with the keyword of the card. So I'm just going to choose to ignore that guidebook for now. But it's very cookie cutter. It's gorgeous, it looks cool, it's cute, it's affordable. It's very cookie cutter Oracle deck. And I don't know where I was going with this. Well, I was playing with that, and while I also had this, and you know, this this sort of like this weird feeling came over me where I was like, hey, and all the decks that I'm going to show in this video are decks that I like. There's not one deck here that I don't like. So I was playing with this, and this is a very, you could say, very basic affirmation-y deck. Yeah? Almost like a Hay House deck. I'm surprised Hay House hasn't picked this up yet. But it's very affirmation-y, very femme, very soft. So why do I feel like even without that box, the quality of this deck is higher than the quality of the Shaman's Dream? Why is that? And I think I found the answer, y'all. Here's the title card. I want to put it back neatly the way it belongs. The answer to that question to me is what makes the indie deck more charming than the mass market deck is that it's very clear that with this deck, it was made by three ladies, that they had this unique vision and a very specific goal they wanted to reach by releasing this deck. It's not in this box for no reason either. It's special, and they really had a very clear vision when constructing the deck. Even though this is a very simple seeming affirmation deck, the whole vibe of the complete product. So we're talking packaging, cardstock, the art, the colors chosen for the art, the writing on the cards, the writing in the guidebook. All of that feels so intentional. You can just feel that literally oozing out of the product as you're using it. Whereas, and I have to be honest here, and a lot of people are maybe going to hate me for this, this is just another Colette Baron V deck. And yes, Alberto Villoldo contributed something. What he contributed precisely is never clear. It's very strange. They could have just had a Colette's name on the box, but this is just another run-of-the-mill Colette Baron V deck. And she's very big on constantly talking about how she does use systems and it's all tied to the tarot and the I Ching and the runes. Honey, I don't see it. Doesn't mean this is a bad deck. Like I said, I like all the decks that I have out here right now. I love them all. So it's not a bad deck. It is, where I'd say this is McDonald's. And sometimes I love me a bit of McDonald's. And this is eating at a gourmet restaurant. And I don't always feel like eating at a gourmet restaurant, but you know, when I'm presented with the choice, would I... It's not even a gourmet restaurant, because a gourmet restaurant sort of implies sort of a I'm better than you, and it isn't always nice to go to a gourmet restaurant because, you know, you really have to dress up and you have to get fancy. This is your mother's family recipe that she only cooks once a year, and that is very special, and that totally takes you back to your origins. That's what a good indie oracle, or a good oracle deck in general, is to me. I have more examples of this. So another one that I actually really like, I really like this deck. Let me get the cards out before I show you all the box. Is this. It's the Sacred Forest Oracle by Denise Lynn. I'm not the biggest work of Ms. Lynn's decks. I think they're pretty mediocre, honestly. This one is special to me, though. So let's see what else she released, because I forgot. Oh yeah, the Gateway, Native Spirit. I think that's a really problematic deck. Sacred Destiny, Sacred Traveler, Soul Coaching. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of her decks. These cards, once again, although some of them don't, but most of them have really gorgeous art. Sometimes it's a bit too CGI 90s video game PlayStation demo-esque. But for example, this card is just stunning. It's really pretty. Once again, this cardstock is different from the Colette again. Like, this feels a little bit better, but yeah, Hay House is not doing so well with their cardstock. And although I feel like there is a bit more of a concept behind this, once again, this is very much pretty art, keywords, book with pretty basic messages that aren't that interesting. I have to say, when it comes to this deck, there is, I believe, a guided audio meditation for each card, which could be really special. I haven't tried it yet because I'm not that big on meditation. I do it very rarely because it causes anxiety, more anxiety for me than that it actually brings me peace of mind. What I do have to commend Denise for, though, is that there are lots of spreads in here. I feel like published authors need to stop with the one card reading or the one card spread. No, that doesn't count. The 3 card reading, you know, past, present, future, to be quite honest, Denise did try here. It says blockage, healing, outcome. That's interesting. So I have to commend her. She tried. A 5 card message, which is really cool. It's about message from your higher self, heavenly beings, earth spirits, ancestors, future self, and then a tree of life spread, which is a 9 card spread, which is, frankly, doesn't work for an oracle deck that has 44 cards because you can never exceed around 10% of the cards in your deck for a spread. So a 44 card oracle deck would go up to a maximum of a 5 card spread for it to be feasible. It's basic math. But you know, she did try in here. Oh, there's even a 13 card spread. Okay. You know, and these people, these writers, make a lot of money because they are super credited. The artist isn't even credited on the box, so this reeks to me like a commission work thing. So I don't think the artist is getting any royalties and the writer is, when in fact the product that was written, the written portion of this set is really mediocre. Really, it's really mediocre. It's not that great. But I do like it because sometimes I enjoy a little bit of junk food. So once again, if I happen to pull up a deck that you might love and think is really deep, that is fine for you. But, you know, I feel differently about it. And like I said, I like them all, but they are very much junk food decks for me. Let's give an example of a really good one. This is an indie one, and this is actually an indie one where I really dislike the art. I don't jive well with Cedar McLeod. Is that actually their name? Okay, interesting. I've never heard of anyone here named Cedar, but cool. Cedar McLeod did the Numinous Arrow, really hated that. I really hate their art. Sorry. I am allowed to dislike someone's art, just like lots of people dislike my art and sometimes are very vocal about it. That's okay. I'm a grown-ass man, so I can handle that. I don't like Cedar's art. It's too, I'm not saying it's not well painted. The quality of the artistic value is there, but it's too cartoony for my liking, personally. It's a bit too Disney for my liking. So you'd probably think, hey, why is this in Levi's great Oracle deck pile? Because it is. This is a fucking stellar deck. So there is sort of a major arcana, and then there is sort of a minor arcana, but this is not like the tarot at all. This deck is based on the way books are created. where the major arcana cards are sort of the story portion. So the intellectual content of the story. And then we have the minors. Let's see. For the minor suits, we have the suit of ink, we have the suit of thread, and we have the suit of paper. So that's the physical contents of the book, how the book is created. It makes for a really, really, really intelligently realized system. And because that is so good and the writing is so good, not even just the guidebook, but even the wording on the cards is so well chosen. It oozes passion. It oozes, I know what I'm talking about. I really respect that. And there's a very, very, very clear theme to this deck. That's usually why I like Oracle decks. Tarot is tarot to me. A mermaid tarot is not going to be different for me than a St. Jinx sexy buff gay man tarot. For some reason, you know, I hear a lot of people say that their readings differ greatly from deck to deck. I don't really have that. I do like collecting them. I do like looking at the art, but I don't really have that thing where my tarot readings differ that greatly. Eight of Swords is my I have a very distinctive way of reading. I do have some decks that fit my style of reading a bit more, because that's essentially why I created my own to begin with, because I missed that. Since then, I have found decks that already existed that really fit that style. But Oracle decks are all different, and you know, they invite the creator to come up with a unique concept, where this is very much that. And this is, okay, we'll do one about the forest then. And it may not have been the case, and maybe Denise Lynn is a lovely woman, and maybe Colette is a lovely woman, but it just reeks of rushed, unimaginative processes, which I still enjoy. That's the fun thing. Do I reach for them all the time? No, but and when I'm bored and I need to activate my mind a little bit, you know, this is a very fun deck that I can use to just get a funky keyword that I can use. Do I read these guidebooks? Barely. Do I think that, I've only played with this a couple times. Do I feel like they can add a lot to my readings? They're not that, there's not that much context in there at all. The Shaman's Dream Oracle, like I said, the guidebook was a bit weird. Colette writes pretty chunky. One that I got yesterday where I was like, that's weird, was most of the cards have, let me quickly test this before I come off like a buffoon. So Eye of the Needle, that's card number 17. Yeah, most of the cards have, let me show you right here. They have the title, then they will have the first keyword that's on the card, and then some other keywords underneath, and then they'll have a story. And I feel like almost all the cards have this. I probably should have prepared this better, but the Wailing Tree, oh, where would the wall be then? Yeah, the wall, obstacles, yeah. Then we have, and I feel like this is almost a mistake, the Stranger, yeah. Stranger says, right here, it says the other as the first keyword. And for every other card, the first keyword we see in the guidebook is also the first keyword we see on the card. Now let me find that card really quickly, because I feel like this is just a very big mistake. So like I said before, in the guidebook, every keyword that we see right here between the title and this little other keyword bunch says the same keyword that's on the card. This card says curiosity. Also, this is one of 2 cards in this deck that feature a male figure. Yay, progress. We allow males to be in Oracle decks now. Because apparently when they're sexy and blue, they're not scary to women or men or not threatening. Or am I getting too political now? Maybe I am. Sorry. Please unsubscribe if you don't like this shit. Because there will be more where that came from. So it said curiosity. Okay, cool. And then the guidebook says the other. And it's very much about you may be conditioned to look only for what mirrors what is safe and known to you. That's typos. That's not edited well. You may be conditioned to look only for what mirrors what is safe and known to you. Okay. Comma. Okay, it is. Refusing to entertain any concept of other. Nowhere in this whole piece of text do we get that curiosity sense anywhere. And there's more like that. So it's not that well written either. Also, why is there a blue man? Why is there a cat or a pillar, like I showed earlier? This is my favorite card, Fool's Embrace. Why does the art look like it does? It's barely explained anywhere. And sometimes when it is explained, for example, if I'm coming from Miss Colette, I have to come with receipts, so I have to look all of this up. Where's that stupid Venus garden? Also, really hate this. A cactus with a face. Stop it, girl. Like, but most of the cards in this deck are absolutely stunning, so. But like I said, that caterpillar isn't explained. Another weird face in a belly. Stop it. Like, stop with the weird faces, Jenna. We know you love that. Where's that Venus? Venus's garden. Bullshit. Garden of Venus. So we get this really cute yet very generic sort of Garden of Eden-esque 25. Okay. Also, all the cards are numbered, but they're also in alphabetical order. So why are there numbers on the cards? It's unnecessary, and they don't correspond with numerology either, the meanings or but whatever. Oh yeah, okay, so it's almost always. Also, this is another card where it says, the place of all is well. But the keywords on the card says, rest and release. This does talk about that, but listen. When the Garden of Venus appears, you are invited, actually summoned, to return to the pleasure garden of love. It is time to leave the field of battle. Put your sword away. There is nothing you need to defend anymore. So where does this battle allegory come from all of a sudden? I'm not battling anything, Colette. Step through the gate into the garden of earthly delights. Bask in the joy of the wish-fulfilling trees and scent of the healing flowers. You have returned home. Okay. Go into the sacred garden alone, as there is no need for another to be present to experience the pleasures. Really stop looking for the other. Enter by yourself. Once again, what's the other? Okay. Allow your senses to intoxicate you. Leave all thought behind. Lose your analytical mind and return to your body. In the Garden of Venus, there is still a pond that shows you your reflection when you stoop down to drink. Who is staring back at you? Wow, that took a turn. Look at what you have become. Rinse your face with these healing waters and practice deep acceptance. Love who you have turned into with all your imperfections and blemishes. Imperfections? Where? Blemishes? Where? I'm perfect. I'm that bitch. The goddess Venus holds a mirror that allows you to see yourself in all your flawed beauty. Do not become caught in its spell. After a quick glance, take the mirror with you and return to the battlefield that you may reveal to others who they are becoming. Then you will no longer have a use for your sword. ... So that turned from a very generic oracle message into a very ominous one. And then when we look at the artwork, There's no Venus, there's no mirror. Where did this information come from? And it is not explained anywhere. So when I listen to Colette's podcast and she talks about how she takes 10 to 12 months to do a deck, and it's a very precarious process, this doesn't show for that, Colette. So, but it's cute. It's junk, but it's junk food. So we already did this one, that was good. This one, that was good. I have a bunch of bad ones to go through. Most of these, most of them are Hay House, very telling. Another one that's really bad and that has nothing to add to its previous incarnation are the Monology Manifestation cards by Jasmine Ballen. Why did I get this? Because I did kind of like the first Monology cards, but these are not ugly, and the first Monology cards are really, really, really badly designed. And whoever says they aren't is lying. No, you can love what you love. Now, but I really hate the tacky design on that. This is, once again on different cardstock, more akin to the Starseed Oracle cardstock, but not quite. But it's better than this one, miles better, and a little bit better than this one. It's a really cute deck. Did we need this deck to exist? No. Did the first Monology deck suffice? Yes. Do we need to have all these Hay House authors as sort of authors and gurus that are constantly teaching these really basic classes that contain information you could have looked up yourself on Wikipedia? No, but they do exist. People love it. And I mean, we'll do whatever inspires you, but ain't nothing that a quick Google search can't fix, or a trip to your local library, maybe. I do love these cards. I love lunar phase integration into my life. I have a very difficult relationship with the moon. So this is interesting, and I do like the artwork. I think it's really pretty. I think it's less tacky. I think it's a bit more relaxing. It's cute. The backs are gorgeous. There's no heart and soul in it whatsoever. The guidebook is really thin, and sometimes it pisses me off too a little bit, where I'm like, wow, you got published with this little 133-page guidebook with not a lot of info. The thing is, the difference to this is that it focuses on manifestation, but the contents, the cards aren't that different. So it has manifestation tips and it goes into angels, but very minimally. Let me show you a card. I will just pull a random card from this deck. Let's see what it tells me that I need to do. Full Moon in Aries, cool your emotions. Like I said, these do work because they're right. I do need to cool my emotions. So let's see if I can find. Oh, and it flipped open right on the page. Ooh, the gods and the angels are mad. Are you in the middle of an argument or in the mood to pick an argument? Surely not. Well, I am. Oh, that lingo right there, that tone of voice, surely not, is so condescending, and it's like I'm being spoken to as if I were a child. Or are you being overly forward? This is a time of heated emotions and free tempers. Anger is better than despair, as Abraham Hicks taught us. In this little, who's Abraham Hicks? Who knows who Abraham Hicks is? I do. 17-year-old Becky with the good hair doesn't, and is like, oh, that must be an important person. No, it is someone who made up channeled this Abraham Hicks persona and sold 1 million books. It's not someone. Their name is Esther, not Abraham. And since Esther's husband died, Esther has stopped channeling. So how are we? And we've never hear from her anymore. So Who the fuck is Abraham Hicks? Anyways, blah, 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 blah. Where was I? Avoid stirring the pot. Okay. Manifesting balance. Seek a balance between you, and me. Okay. Manifesting mindset. There's no point in pretending that you don't have intense feelings. Okay, that's good. As this blocks your manifesting power. You need to work through your feelings by thinking of people involved or forgiving yourself. A manifesting ritual. Okay. Add Angelica essential oil to your diffuser. So that's something you need to go get. She probably has a web store where she probably sells all these tools, or where you can buy a kit. Wouldn't be surprised. Find a comfortable seated position. Call in Athena, the warrior goddess, to give you the courage you need to work through your emotions. Ask Athena to surround you with her energy so that you can transmute anger into healthy anger, and even love, including in dramas with others. Your affirmation: out of this only good will come. Okay. Who is Athena? I know who that is. I think most people kind of know who that is. Invoking goddesses and gods without any information. Once again, it's cute, but it's junk food. I love it. I really like it. But it's. Let me show you an example of a deck where there's a shit ton of information. The Threads of Fate Oracle deck, often accused of being an aesthetic deck only. Let me tell you, it's not. It's not. Most of you will have seen these cards. They're really pretty. They have foil on them. Really, really stunning. Really, really cool. People think this is just an aesthetic deck. It's not. I will read you a guidebook page out of this one. Okay, so we got Shadow. Really pretty card. Look at that. Shadow. Where would that be? So their guidebook is not the best when it comes to finding things. But then again, the letters are really big. Okay, Shadow. Let me read you this paragraph. This card indicates that diving deeper into your shadow at this time will be beneficial. It is through knowing your unconscious self that we find the root of our blocks, perceived limitations, and wounds. It is also how we come to know ourselves in our totality. We cannot reach our true potential without meeting our shadow and working with the parts of ourselves that we have been told to lock away or be ashamed of. The truth is, your shadow is your greatest gift. Now, with almost every card, we get a plant, an animal, and a crystal, except for some of the more major arcana-esque cards. In this guidebook, they go very deep into plant, animal, and crystal medicine, and that they don't replace actual healthcare, which is really good. Everything is explained. This is probably one of the again, but most of my selection here is the best written Oracle deck guidebooks there is. I could read the whole page for this card, or the whole 2 pages, but you know, they go into the symbolism of the plant, of the crystal, of the animal, but I don't have to, because I know it's really good. So yeah, you know, everything is explained. Everything is, let's see, there's a lot of information in this. They cite other people's works and do it very neatly, shit like that. So that's really good. Another one that's, you know, once again, also good, but more of a junk food deck, and this isn't in the writing. Let me be very honest about that. It's the Foxfire Kitsune Oracle by Lucy Cavenish. Lucy is a tremendous oracle writer, because everything that Jasmine, Colette, and Denise don't do, she does do. It's very clear that she does her research. So with Lucy, it's never really, oh, I channeled this, and you're just gonna have to take it take my word for it. With Lucy, it's very much, I've done research about all these beings, and I've been to that country, and I've done research, and I kind of know what I'm talking about, and I will use references and stuff like that, you know. It's actually really, really good. I don't know if it's the case here, but I have an actual book by her where there's also citations, references, APA style footnotes, shit like that. And she has a really good writing style. This woman can write. Where my issue comes with the deck is that, and I didn't know this beforehand, I love the art in this deck. But some of it looked a little bit weird because this is very much a Japanese oracle deck or Japanese oracle deck. But some of the art looked kind of, I don't know, some of the art looked kind of not Asian or not Asian inspired, but very Western inspired. I just showed that fairy already. For example, the dragon card looks like this, and I was like, that's kind of odd. For an Asian inspired deck, there's a lot of like Celtic imagery here. I wonder why that is. This deck is a bit more guidebook heavy. And like I said, most of it is very Asian. Some of it looks a bit anime, but then there's this theme of kind of Gaelic dragons. I was like, well, where are my Asian dragons? You know, you kind of get my drift, right? And then I found out that this was all this artwork was already done beforehand, and and Blue Angel used to do this a lot, and it's becoming less so. And most of Lucy's decks do this. It is just a collection of pre-existing images turned into an oracle deck, which is fun and great. But when you get an oracle deck like this, which is now mass market published by Hay House, which I find very funny because this is so far beyond the scope of quality of anything that Hay House has ever released when it comes to depth, that I find it really interesting that they picked this up, because this is as un-Hay House as you can get. This is the indie version of the deck. Kara and Amy did a fabulous job. The Prairie Majesty Oracle. Let me show you. I don't know how they did it, but Kara is an exceptional writer. Amy is a really cool artist, and they created this together. So sometimes I think the writing came first. So Kara did a write-up of the card, and then Amy made the art. So this was totally like a collaborative experience. Sometimes we get oracle deck creators that do everything themselves. The writing in this is tremendous. You get really, really, really thought-provoking prompts on each card. So you get your keyword, you get the animal or plant that it's about, and then you get a question. So the keyword is build. The question is, what am I integrating? So that's very much about building within yourself. So many layers, so good. Everything was tailor-made. All the art was tailor-made to go with these texts. Rather than, hey, I wrote this deck, let's just find some cool imagery that goes with it. Or I find some cool imagery that I kind of want to do something with, I'm going to turn it into a deck. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, there is a huge difference there. Another example of this is older Hay House decks, for example this. I still feel like this is one of Doreen Virtue's best decks, especially when it comes to the guidebook. After this, all our guidebooks only had one card pool and past, present, future spread. There are, and they're really good too, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spreads in this book. This is from back when they were still stapled, not even perfect bound yet. The texts, the affirmations, everything is, although it's petite, it's cute, but the writing is really good. You could tell the genuinity, the creative spark for her as a writer was really there. Whereas with this, and this is like her 13th deck, and they all kind of start looking the same and feeling the same and sounding the same. I'm like, that spark seems to have gone a little bit. But then, and I've talked about this incessantly here on my channel, and I love this deck for it. This is what Hay House used to do. They would either commission painters and artists or look at back catalogs of artists to find pre-existing work or have new work created to use in their decks. And it's essentially the cheapest way, because unless you as an artist are credited on the box as an author of the deck, you're not getting any royalties. So, you know, it's a cheap, you don't get a contract, you don't get royalties. It's a cheap way. You know, it's essentially investment-wise, it might cost you more because you have to pay all these artists separately, and it's probably going to be more expensive than asking one artist to do all the art, because you're probably going to get a little bit of a discount. But the returns that you're going to get are tremendous, because you are able to give all these artists these assignments at the same time, or pick from their back catalogs, give them all the same deadline, and then have all that art at the same time, and you can pump out deck after deck. That was a really good business decision. Thank God the market evolved in a way where we as consumers don't accept that type of deck anymore. And I think that's also mainly because of most indie deck creators. What I also kind of found out is that I do like decks that have a really, because there are also indie oracles that I like, because, you know, once again, I like and I work regularly with all these decks that I've shown here. But there are also indie oracle decks, and I forgot to bring that one down, that I like, but that I don't use that often. I have found out that I do like an oracle deck that has a really strong concept behind it, like this one, you know, that whole how are books created and how can we use that as an allegory and as symbolism for life, or you know, prairie animals and plants, and what do they have to teach us, and what questions is nature asking us, or you know, this one doesn't really have a concept per se, but the moon deck is very much about ritual, grounding, affirmation, lifting up, power, and done in such a tremendous great way that it is actually that it makes the deck really strong in concept. Another one that I have here is this one. Let's see, a deck for wonder walking. Really conceptually one of the strongest decks I've ever had. So you kind of use this deck to pull a card, and that card will be the focus of your walk. So you're gonna be, but you can also just use it for divination, but that's how the deck was designed. That's a really strong, innovative concept. And then you get your horizontal cards, which are also interesting, because who does that? I barely know any people that do that. All the cards are horizontal. Not because the pre-existing art you had to select from that you wanted in the deck only came across well because it was horizontal, and now there's 43 cards with a vertical image and then one horizontal card because you guys were too cheap ass to actually have new art created as a publishing company. Okay, the tea is being spilt. But this is really cool, you know, that whole idea. And I have realized that decks like that tend to work better for me. Decks that make me feel like, and once again, not saying like or dislike, loving all them, but this deck inspires me more than this deck. This deck is cute and simple for a quick card pool to give me a little bit of focus. This deck I actually work with, and this deck teaches me things, and this deck grows with me. Yeah? Another one that It's really good. Junk food, but good. I got this deck because this is the only mass market Oracle deck that is devoted to the Divine Masculine. And I want to thank Stacy DeMarco for doing it. But you could only find 38 masculine deities inspiring enough to be in the deck. Only 38. Every Oracle deck ever has 44 cards. You could only do 38. I wonder if the goddess equivalent of this deck, because that exists, also only has 38 cards, or does that have 44 cards? I don't know. A lot of people shit on it because they think the imagery is too comic booky. I'm a huge Jimmy Manton fan, but Jimmy doesn't really care about his work for these Oracle decks. He doesn't really advertise them. He doesn't really, acknowledge tags on Instagram. This is just a commission job for him, I guess, but he's really good at it. This is a really cool, really cool Oracle deck. Stacy is very good at writing usable decks. Once again, this is a great one. It's very quick for a quick card pool. But then we get, for each entry, we get an invocation of the god or goddess. And that's where I'm kind of like, she's thorough. She says, tools you may need. There's some spreads in here. So she tried. But, for example, Stacy, tell us where you learn to invoke these gods and goddesses and how much experience you have with that, and who taught you, and where does all this knowledge come from? I don't feel like I can trust her enough to just do this, because I feel like, what might happen if I do that? What am I inviting in? Just because some Australian lady said that this is the way you invoke Thor, I don't know what I'm invoking. So once again, this actually is one of my favorite oracles. I actually am due for a replacement copy because I use this so much that some of the cards started peeling. And I really hope that there probably isn't a reprint, because I don't believe this was such a hot seller, because, we need 10,000 more decks about the Divine Feminine, because that will sell, Oh, more goddesses, yay, that will sell. Oh, another one about menstrual cycles, because that's really cool to have a deck about menstrual cycles, and we don't need another deck about gods, because they're not interesting. And when we are publishing a deck about gods, guides, and goddesses, there will be 10 gods in there and 34 goddesses and female spirit guides, and then people get mad at me for making decks with just guys in there. I'm like, yeah, sorry, that is my thing. So yeah, this one does have but this one is really good. But like 38 cards. Man, I wanted more, and maybe no invocations, but more actual information. And but this is actually from all the decks I have here, which once again I all like. This is probably the less junk food-esque out of all of them. Another one that's really cool is the You Are Here Oracle. This is it's by Monica Ann. She can follow her on Instagram as Soft Bay Bloom. This is more of a standard Oracle deck, but once again, this is very much there's a very strong concept behind it, and the love for what they were doing in that process just seeps out of this product. The concept for this deck is all the trips, all the trips that they and psychedelic experiences and dreams they ever had, and they kind of bundled them in here, and they are pretty universal. So the card titles are a bit weird, but then you get something to think about, kind of, and then you get a couple keywords down here, and it is a collage deck, but it's a collage deck with a very clear concept. I also have the Divine Muse Oracle, which I love aesthetically, but to me that is more of a junk food deck, even though it's indie, and even though you can feel the love and the genuinity, but it does feel like cool pictures with usable keywords. And this deck, however, has a very similar vibe as that, a little bit more polished maybe, but similar, and does have that really, really interesting concept behind it. So essentially this 50-minute long video was basically a sort of an essay from me to you about what oracle decks work for me and why, and what oracle decks also work but I use for a different purpose. So all of these are very much, all of these, and most of them are indie. I have to tell you, all of them are indie. All of these are, you know, this one's fairly new, so the jury's still out, but this one definitely. These are all heavy hitters that are very conceptual, very strong, very well written, very well drawn and produced, versus, you know, cookie cutter. I worked 12 months on this, and it's essentially the same as my first deck. All this art already existed, and I just tried to tie it together with a story. I'm a pretty bad writer, you know, stuff like that. And I just wish, I wish that we as a community, and I honestly hope you guys are listening to this, I wish we as a community would give less credit to, how do I say this without sounding like a dick? I wish we would look at a product without rose-tinted glasses and actually look at the content that's there and the quality of the content that's there, rather than falling in love with a creator, author, guru, and lapping up everything they're serving us, because obedience is the biggest form of flattery, but obedience is also dangerous as hell. And even though I love my junk food sometimes, I love my mom's food way better. And, you know, but I do love them both. Not gonna lie about that. But think about that. Jasmine Ballen, probably a really fun gal. You already did this deck, girl. Colette, she sounds mighty friendly on her podcast. She's already got enough money. She doesn't need more of my money. I'm not gonna buy another deck by her, I think. But, you know, same to her, Colette, you've already done this deck and better. So yeah, you know, like, we really need to stop buying into these authors as a lifestyle. And I happen to enjoy these people that have these, you know, these one-off projects. I don't know if Amy and Kara are ever gonna work together again, but that are so focused that they are the chef's kiss. I will take that any day over this. Not saying that they're not good. I'm saying that there's a difference in quality, you know. And I use this when I kind of want to get a little bit quirky and get lost in a fantasy world and want to get a quick keyword for myself for that moment. Love it for that. But when I actually want to work on self, get me my Threads of Fate or my Prairie Majesty, you know, like, that's what I actually work with. Okay, hour-long essay. Sorry about it. Hope you liked it. Love y'all, and good night.